I stood in the living room, observing the scene before me as if watching a play. My family's laughter and dismissive whispers mingled with the softly playing music, but my attention was completely focused on the expressions on their faces. They were all gathered there, in a tastefully decorated setting, fresh flowers and elaborate arrangements, crystal silverware gleaming in the soft light. But it was the hypocrisy that truly stood out against that luxurious backdrop. My name is Laura, 38, owner of an exclusive event venue, I thought, trying to absorb the irony permeating the situation. You're really going to have your wedding at that place? Why not choose something more traditional? My mother's voice cut through the air with veiled disdain. I maintained a smile, but inside, my emotions simmered. She looked at me as if I were a child, someone still incapable of making adequate decisions. They always underestimate what they can't see, I murmured to myself as a mantra, reminding myself of the determination that fueled every plan I'd made. As I watched, I noticed the criticisms flying from one group to another, like well-aimed arrows. My brother, Mark, leaning against the door, made sarcastic comments, always trying to position himself as the perfect son. And my heart ached as I noticed how he sought her approval while completely ignoring me. It was a familiar pattern, a vicious cycle of behaviors that never seemed to change. In that clash of egos, I felt reduced to a mere extra in the narrative of my own life. The room was filled with expensive decor, but what truly mattered were the disapproving glances and insidious words. They didn't understand how much this meant to me. My venue wasn't just another event space. It was a dream, an extension of my identity. Every detail I had painstakingly chosen, a construction of my reality. But to them, especially to my mother, the glittering glamour of grandiose weddings in traditional venues always overshadowed the true essence of what I was creating. And then the question surfaced again, like a smug smile from an imaginary acquaintance, almost laughing at me. Why don't you do something truly remarkable, Laura? It spun in my mind like a recurring nightmare. Emotional proof that I wasn't enough. Every laugh, every quip, every knowing glance they exchanged showed that my determination wasn't respected, only tolerated. Still, I thought, feeling the weight of their criticism pressing down on me, I'm about to create something they never imagined. Something that will make them all see my vision. The words echoed like a call to action. I needed a plan. A strategy to transform their indifference into recognition. A plan that would turn their disdain into admiration, or at least respect for my ability to achieve. The room was thick with veiled discomfort, and all I wanted to do was dismantle every sneering smile, every dark comment. In those moments, surrounded by the futility of family history, I began to feel the spark of a growing determination. A force that told me that instead of surrendering to their narrow vision, I could shape my own. The idea began to take form, an event that would surpass all their expectations, something that would leave each of them speechless. Perhaps the first task was to fully understand their image of me, and how they could see me in a new light. Their laughter echoed in my mind, but now it was merely background noise. I was ready to take the reins of my own story, and I realized that the darkness of doubt that had previously surrounded me was dissipating. Little by little, just like the floral arrangements adorning the room, the truth began to reveal itself. And with that revelation, arms of vengeance began to extend, inviting me to dance to their calculating rhythm. That night, deep in the heart of my own living room, I made a promise to myself. They didn't know what was coming, but very soon, I would make them see differently. I remember how it all started with vibrant dreams for my own reality. When I envisioned creating my event space, I received an invitation to be part of a world that often didn't accept me. The idea emerged amidst the family chaos that always permeated our gatherings. From a young age, I knew I didn't fully belong in that world where status and social perfection were the only rules. While my friends planned their grand debutante balls, I spent hours sketching every corner of a venue where I could transform celebrations into unforgettable experiences. Now, mentally flipping through the memories of my childhood and adolescence, I realized that those family interactions were always marked by comparisons, each more painful than the last. During dinners, I faced everything from subtle insinuations that a mother should always be the one making things happen, to jokes about how I wasn't the ideal mother for still being single at 38. My mother's voice constantly resonated in family arguments, as if I were a lost child needing guidance. "If you don't have a marriage certificate, what are you really, Laura?" she frequently questioned, as if a piece of paper could define my self-worth. The relentless competition with my brother, Mark, made everything even harder. Mark always projected an air of confidence, seemingly stumbling into success in our family's ventures. The way our parents gradually showered him with praise left me trapped in a pit of insecurity. His conversations, peppered with corporate jargon, and his effortless communication skills made me feel inferior. I remember one Christmas when he brought a new girlfriend, exuding sophistication and charm, while I felt invisible, just a shadow in the brightly lit room. My parents' admiration for his achievements, even trivial ones, like good grades or a promotion, seemed to create a wall between us, a barrier I couldn't seem to breach. And then there was Patricia, my cousin. Since childhood, our rivalry was unbearable. Every time we got together, she'd seize any opportunity to highlight the other's flaws, as if life were a popularity contest. The applause she garnered at each gathering was accompanied by the nervous smiles of those who felt threatened. Her famous comment, "Laura, wouldn't it be great if you could do something like that someday?" echoed in my mind like a sneaky shadow. I always knew that while Patricia shone on the social stage, my talent was invisible to those who mattered. These interactions shaped my self-perception. Every absorbed criticism and every judgment from my family pushed me further into an abyss of insecurity that, paradoxically, made me want to fight even harder. At the same time, this peculiar dance of love and disdain became a powerful fuel. It was an undeniable need to show everyone that I wasn't just deserving, but that I also had the potential to create something extraordinary. They couldn't keep underestimating me. With these reflections, I returned to those early gatherings and events that, while brimming with high expectations, had become oceans of disappointment. Over the years, I decided I wouldn't let myself be erased. Looking again at my exclusive event space, a venue I transformed and modernized based on a bold concept that addressed human relationships and sensory experiences, I realized it was in my hands to redefine the family narrative. My shelves were filled with awards unknown to my family, accolades recognizing my work, yet absent from our home's walls of honor. It was clear they weren't ready to see beyond appearances. The concept of glamour that I ended up creating in my business wasn't about superficial glitz or the weight of what could be, but about how things could be experienced at an event. For me, every corner of my space should reveal not just stories, but memorable experiences that people would carry away. In interacting with clients, I realized that the true beauty of glamour lay in its essence, in the experience, not mere ornamentation. What I needed now was to bring this experience to life and transform it into a profound impact on my family's perception of me. However, looking at my space, a restlessness stirred within me, an inevitable frustration that, with all my achievements, my worth could still be diminished by lingering critical eyes. I had to prepare to make my dream a vibrant reality, where experiences became the focus of the glory I desired to achieve. And so, with this new direction, I decided my mission was to listen and learn before acting. How would I begin to map their perception of me? To do this, I needed to get inside their heads, address their concerns, and ultimately become the voice that would break down the barriers. I began an almost obsessive routine, scouring social media, documenting how each family member referred to past events, and more importantly, their views on those gatherings. Observations about the beauty of a wedding here or another event there. It was striking to note that their opinions were open, yet simultaneously constrained within a box with a remarkably narrow opening. Based on this, I noticed a clear pattern. They didn't recognize my potential behind the criticisms, a potential that could be used to my advantage. Observations about grandiose weddings in established venues, where glamour and prestige were recurrent, couldn't defeat me. I could transform this disdain into art by creating an unparalleled experience that would prove them wrong. This excited me. As I continued to map family perceptions, an old contact from the event industry, Lucas, entered the scene. A longtime friend who knew my vision and believed in my potential, he helped me understand that my ability to react to these challenges could be the key to achieving what I wanted. When I shared with him all the information I had gathered, I saw a spark ignite in his eyes. "Laura, you can surprise them. Based on their criticisms, you have everything you need to create something truly impactful. Let's shape this with your ideas," he said, a wide smile spreading across his face. Feeling my idea pulsating with a new rhythm, my plan began to unfold before me, an evolving driving force. I was about to become the orchestrator of the change I so longed for, charting the course that would finally bring me approval and recognition. How many times before had I felt this latent desire to be recognized, and now the opportunity unfolded before me like a whirlwind of possibilities. With each interaction with my family and every critique I received, my plan for revenge solidified, while the shadow of their disdain slowly faded. Now, more determined than ever, I understood that even those who underestimated me would be touched by my story, anticipating a journey that would, by subjecting them to a new way of seeing life, be a spectacle surpassing any preconceived notion, leaving them paralyzed by the splendor of my truth. And so, armed with every fragment, weaving a web of intrigue and revelation, I made the greatest promise to myself and to what was to come. My moment to shine was near, and they would have to look at me with new eyes. From that decisive moment, a new phase in my life began to unfold. Each day, I woke with renewed determination, the desire to transform disdain into admiration pulsing through my veins. The wedding became not just a social event, but an opportunity for transcendence, a chance to claim my space in the family narrative. And for that, I needed information. My plan demanded a methodical investigation. My first action was to dive into the social media of my family and friends. My phone became my new ally in the relentless search for opinions and criticisms, an instrument that would allow me to excavate their frivolous ideas about weddings. My fingers swiped across the screen again, opening profiles and analyzing posts in search of clues that would help me understand how they truly felt about my work, the options I was considering for my venue. I quickly realized that most of the people around me, especially my family members, were stuck in traditional norms and expectations. Comments like, "A wedding needs elegance, not this modern style," or, "I'm more of a fan of grand parties in well-known places," were not uncommon. It was clear. I didn't just have to offer an exclusive event. I had to go against the tide of convention and raise the bar of what would be acceptable to them. But how could I turn this invisibility into a showcase? Each screenshot, each comment I saved brought me closer to my goal. I became a stealthy observer, analyzing these aspects through a critical lens. I circulated through their online interactions, laughing and grumbling, almost like a detective in search of the perfect mystery. And in each silly gesture, like an explicit smile or a disdainful look, I felt I was fragmenting the image they had formed of me. A vivid memory surfaced in my mind, a conversation I had months ago during a family meal. "Why don't you do something more classic, like Patricia? Her wedding was amazing." The contrast with what I could offer had never seemed so evident. Patricia always had an inexplicable ability to become the center of attention. Her taste for traditional finishes and ostentatious details obscured my vision of what a true event could be. I needed to use this to my advantage, and I devised a way to turn the tide. It was a race against time, and I needed to be quick and clever. An unexpected ally appeared in the form of a former colleague in the event industry, Lucas. Having followed my struggles over the years, Lucas offered to directly assist in the execution of my plan. What I considered mere research transformed into a complete survey that extended to the criticisms we made of each other, as a way of learning from mistakes. It's important to give them more than they expect. "What do you think about doing research based on what people are saying? How about provoking them?" Lucas suggested, fanning the flames of the competitive spirit I had always felt within me. These conversations ignited a fascinating idea. I decided to discreetly interview some family acquaintances, old friends, and form a network that collected information not only on how they felt about my venue, but also their memories of other places where they celebrated memorable events. I went in search of a side that, until then, was practically unknown to me. What experiences left marks on their memories? Trap after trap, I uncovered surprising details. I discovered that my event space, far from what I thought, had a hidden value that gave me an advantage beneath the surface. Did you know that that place is the one people remember most? A sense of intimacy, of seismic energy that you don't find in traditional places. One of the family friends commented, unaware that I was the owner of the venue. This ignited a new idea. I could use this feeling of intimacy and disposition to elevate my event to several dimensions. It was a concept that unfolded in my mind. A wedding that was not just a presentation, but an experience. An unpredictable atmosphere where the lights would dance to the rhythm of what I wanted to create. The vibrant colors forming a unique palette that I would mix and harmonize to enchant each of the guests. The art of providing experiences would surpass any superficial aspect that our relatives traditionally sought. With this stroke of genius incorporated into my planning, my family's attempts to help with the wedding became clearer. They were ready to get involved with their suggestions, but instead of being overwhelmed with worry, I saw in them a group that now guided the way. Each family member who tried to suggest something traditional was like a piece in my revenge mechanism. My plan was solidifying. I could almost hear the music that I would not only dance to, but also create. A flurry of thoughts raced through my mind. How could I showcase the venue's value without appearing defensive? Handling the subtle yet consistently sabotaging criticisms aimed at proving my brand inadequate felt like the biggest challenge. But I was keenly aware of the essence of what I wanted to promote. Memorable experiences that would not only surpass their disdain, but resonate deeply within their hearts. Eagerly, I visited the venue to inspect every corner, envisioning how I could redesign the atmosphere, shaping the space to allow emotions to flow freely. The visuals would gain new features, but subtly, so that no one attending the event would feel disrespect, but rather connection. At times, I almost felt their presence, offering unsolicited opinions, and I smiled to myself, knowing I was about to surprise them in ways they'd never imagined. With these pieces moving, gradually taking shape, I was at an impasse. All the accumulated frustration became a driving force. This wasn't just a wedding. It had become an emotional statement, a battle between expectation and reality. For every comment stored away, I knew I had something to work with, something that would make them succumb to my vision of grandeur. And so, in this endless cycle of revelations and discoveries, I continued to architect my plan with more passion than ever. My time had finally come, and I was about to make each of them see what true glamour really was, something that had always been within my grasp, but that they had never been able to touch. As days bled into weeks, the intensity of my planning escalated. The need to thoroughly understand the preferences and aversions of my family circle became urgent. I needed more meticulous research, going beyond the usual superficialities. I wanted to understand the pleasures and disappointments behind the experiences that shaped their views on celebrations, and, especially, what they considered glamour. This pursuit wasn't just a matter of curiosity. It was the key to transforming my venue into a haven of memorable experiences. When I conceived the idea of a focus group, I knew I was taking a considerable risk. It would be like opening a door that could lead to both acceptance and judgment. I decided I needed to create a carefully orchestrated environment where everyone felt comfortable expressing their opinions without fear. My goal was to foster open dialogue, where I could hear raw truths and convert criticism into useful data, all in the name of one grand event: my wedding. I chose a charming little cafe in a quiet neighborhood, where the atmosphere was inviting and cozy. The aroma of fresh coffee blended with the warmth of conversation, forming a perfect sonic backdrop for what I needed to do. I invited my mother, Mark, Patricia, and some cousins. The plan was simple and effective: to discuss how each of them felt about wedding celebrations and, using that as leverage, present my vision. When I arrived at the cafe, butterflies accompanied the typical nervousness of significant moments. I rolled up my sleeves for what would be the most important conversation of my life. I prepared a dynamic presentation, filled with short videos of previous events I'd organized, interspersed with inspiring images that would capture the essence of what my venue could offer. As family members arrived, I noticed the initial tension. Trivial conversation slowly began to evaporate as the focus shifted to me and the presentation I had prepared. "Laura," my mother began, her tone laced with love, but also a hint of apprehension. "I just want you to know I'm worried about what's to come." These words were more than a warning. They were a reminder of the battle I was about to face, not just the fight against their societal expectations, but also against my burning desire to be accepted. That's when I realized I needed to steer the conversation towards something deeper. Mentioning the social pressures we'd always faced as a family, everyone's expressions changed. "It's more than a wedding. It's about how we see ourselves," I said, watching the familiar faces slowly calm down. Throughout the conversation, Mark, who always positioned himself as the idealized son, revealed that he also faced his insecurities. "You know, it's hard for me too, not feeling like I have to be the perfect example," he admitted, with a vulnerable look. That confession, an unexpected goldmine, made my heart leap. This kind of sincerity could be the key to all the exchanges that would happen that night. Patricia, with a shy smile, also began to open up. "I've always wanted to live authentically, but I never knew how," she revealed, her eyes sparkling with the emotion that honesty brought. The pressure to be perfect is sometimes suffocating. In an instant, the competition I thought existed between us transformed into a shared expression of vulnerability, proving that ultimately, we were more alike than we thought. The cafe became a sanctuary of interactions, light and shadow intertwined in a place that had become our refuge for that night. The conversation evolved into something deeper, a true exchange of experiences. Now it was my emotions that could shine and surpass the weight of expectations. In this setting, I was able to address the lack of acceptance and the feeling of not belonging that had always accompanied me. The structure I had created for the conversation was working, not just as a monologue, but as a dance, where everyone actively participated. An event isn't just about the beauty, but about how people feel experiencing it, I emphasized, thanking each of them for sharing their truths. As time went on, the energy in the room became palpable, and a transformation in the dialogue became evident. Suspicious glances turned into encouraging smiles. As I thanked the family for their honesty, they began to realize they weren't just validating my ideas, but also learning about themselves in the process. The upcoming wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a chance to redefine our interactions, fueled by love and emotion. I decided to expand this investigation beyond family conversations. As the night drew to a close, a passion for returning to my roots ignited within me. I hadn't just gathered social implications. I now needed data that could make a real difference in the success of my event. How could I further enhance the experience? To that end, I organized a new strategy. I went beyond family interactions and started exploring interactive methods that would help me better understand what was truly valued in celebrations. I visited other event venues with high ratings, wanting to capture the essence of their success. Each visit was like opening a new book, a chance to learn from others' successes and failures. At a visit to an old mansion that hosted weddings, I realized what could inevitably boost the emotional connection I wanted to provide. Each guest was treated like royalty. One of the organizers, a woman named Helena, shared that the entire process there was focused on immersion. "It's all about giving people experiences they won't forget," she told me, gesturing excitedly as she spoke about how details transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. These conversations and observations made me realize that I needed to design a space that was more than just beautiful. It had to be filled with memorable experiences, where encounters and reunions could be sparked at every corner. It was about creating a genuinely inclusive environment where participants could be themselves without fear of judgment. With this new direction, I felt my plan coming to life. I returned to my space, where the walls now seemed to hold new possibilities. The pressure that had once felt oppressive now fueled my drive. My designs and insights became the necessary fuel to ignite this change. The real question became clear. How could I implement all this information and experience into something cohesive? It wasn't just about bringing together visually appealing elements. I needed to create an emotional mosaic of moments and memories. The true glamour wasn't in the surface, but in the connection I could forge between people as they experienced this event. With this new mindset, I planned a final event that incorporated everything I had learned, everything I hoped for. As the wedding day approached, the excitement grew, and now, more than ever, I was ready to show that what truly mattered wasn't just the celebration itself, but the emotions that celebration would generate, the memories to be made, the bonds to be strengthened. All of it would become part of the narrative they would finally begin to understand and value. I knew I was about to transform not only my space, but also the way my family perceived what truly mattered in life. The experiences and connections we build together. My path to acceptance was finally within reach. The wedding day finally arrived. The energy in the air was electric, and amidst the frenzy, a wave of nervousness washed over me. The space I had carefully planned was now brimming with flowers, soft lights, and a vibrant atmosphere that reflected the love and hope I intended to cultivate at this event. With each detail I observed, I felt my vision taking shape, but anxiety ran rampant, almost like an echo of all the anticipated expectations. The morning began with soft sunlight filtering through the windows, warming the already decorated space with fresh flowers and ornaments that reflected the identity of my space. Like an artist before a grand performance, I was on the verge of something transformative. What was just a space, a physical structure, was now being molded into a memorable experience, an emotional journey full of meaning. I stood before the mirror, meticulously adjusting the white dress I had chosen. In that fabric, I felt not only the gravity of the moment, but the weight of the pains and victories that had brought me there. With each guest that entered, a knot in my stomach transformed into comforting warmth. Nervous smiles played on the faces of many family members who, until that moment, had seemed hesitant. As my mother arrived, her face radiating emotion, I observed a genuine transformation in her expression. The love that began to shine in her eyes was a clear sign that connection could be forged, even though past criticisms had left a trail of insecurities. Soon, the reception area began to buzz. People were interacting, sharing laughter, and reminiscing about the good old days. Mark, observing the scene, eventually went to the memory wall, where each photo told a story that resonated in his heart. At that moment, I realized that the space I had created was more than just a decorative display. It was a place where emotional connection could occur in its purest form. As I watched them absorb the details of the venue, I noticed that my cousin Patricia, always so competitive, began to engage in the interactions. The connection flowing there wasn't just an escape from rivalry, but a genuine bond that blossomed from years of shared experiences. I felt the environment was becoming fertile ground for building bonds and collecting memories, in a way that made everyone feel an integral part of the celebration. Soft music began to play, filling the space with a festive feeling. Instead of apprehension, I noticed the atmosphere now acted as a bridge uniting everyone and everything, mending the invisible fractures that had existed over time. As the clock ticked forward, I invited everyone to gather in the center, where the ceremony would begin. It was there that I decided to break the ice and begin the true celebration, taking advantage of the emotion permeating the air. We are gathered here not only to celebrate love, but also to remember the importance of family. I began, allowing the focused gaze of each person to reveal the emotional weight they carried. Today, we represent more than just exchanged rings. We are the extension of all the memories and experiences that connect us. The speech that followed was a blend of reflections on the past and projections of the future, intertwining stories that, until then, seemed like only loose fragments. Amidst words from my purest intention, I saw tears and smiles mingling, like a song of acceptance. It seemed that with each syllable spoken, the atmosphere became lighter and fuller of life. As the ceremony unfolded, Jorge and I exchanged vows that not only united our lives, but also celebrated love in its deepest essence. The promises of support, understanding, and mutual growth were not limited to us. They were collective promises, a call to those around us, an invitation to family collaboration that would transcend the barriers of time. The intersecting gazes reflected understanding and a new appreciation for the journey each had traveled. The wedding transformed into something much bigger than we expected. I perceived in each gesture, in each toast to the happiness of love, that the true glamour lay in the relationships we formed and the lives we touched along the way. After the ceremony, the party truly began. The tables were adorned with floral arrangements and personal details that were representations of the stories and memories we built together. The focus of the dancing and music wasn't just about the novelty of that day, but about how we could carry these experiences further. Each rhythm pulsed with shared meanings, and with every movement on the dance floor, something was renewed. The interactions between family members became warm. Watching Mark having fun and sharing laughter with cousins he hadn't seen in a long time, I understood that all the effort had been worthwhile. We created a space that not only accommodated but also nourished. Every corner of the venue became a testament to what unity could do, the transformation of feelings into connections and rivalries into understanding. I allowed myself to get into the rhythm of the music, dancing along with everyone, letting emotions flow without inhibition. As the rhythms moved slowly, I noticed the afternoon light mingling with the shadows, creating an ethereal scene that seemed to be in perfect harmony. Everything had been planned, so that, at any moment, everyone felt welcomed and a part of life's dance. The foundation I was building not only united me with Jorge, but also paved the way for new family traditions. When the event came to an end, the starlit night reflected the promises we made to each other, not only as couples, but as members of a family that had learned to understand and support each other. Conversations about the future began to sprout, generating a new kind of connection, which, in a way, were also promises. On that magical night, my vision reached its full potential. The glamour I sought was not only in the decorations, but in the total experience we created together. It was clear that, in the end, this party wasn't just my wedding. It was a celebration of love among people throughout life. In this way, as I looked at each loved one gathered there, I realized that I had achieved not only acceptance, but also a profound connection. My space, an extension of my identity, was now a milestone in the evolution of my family relationships. I left behind the insecurities. Each laugh and each shared moment represented a new era in family dynamics. And so, when a new day dawned and the sun made its appearance, laden with new promises, as sweet as the daylight, I knew that I was finally ready to build a future. Not only as the woman who got married, but as the person who allowed herself to be seen, loved, and accepted for who she truly was. My path to acceptance was filled not only with visions, but with light, love, and the certainty that true glamour is revealed in the experiences we shape, the connections we create, and the memories we form together. After the wedding, the glow of the celebration still reverberated in my heart, but now it was time to take the next step in my life and career. With the space I had transformed into a haven of experiences, I knew I needed to capitalize on the emotional momentum of that magical night and keep it alive through my profession. This protection of what I had built wasn't just a dream. I realized I could shape it. The phone started ringing more than I expected. An influential lifestyle blogger contacted me, interested in sharing my story and the vision I had for my space. Her words resonated like an anthem for my journey. "Laura, what you created is more than an event. It's an experience, a new approach to what a celebration should be. I want the world to know about this." I couldn't contain the happiness that welled up. It was the validation I had always sought, and the chance to show what true glamour represented. For weeks, my space floated in a stream of inspiration and activity. The team I assembled was deeply committed, as we had a greater mission, something beyond simply serving events. We were helping to create experiences that could heal, unite, and celebrate. Looking at the new contracts coming in, a new idea came to mind. Why not create a series of themed events that captured the emotional stories of our clients? I made a list of themes, including family celebrations, graduations, and even life rhythms that tangentially touched on everyone's growth experiences. I planned an event for women, a gathering that would celebrate their stories and achievements, providing a safe and welcoming space where everyone felt like part of something special. A sunny afternoon arrived, reflecting a warmth that was both physical and emotional. We organized an event we nicknamed Women's Voices, a space where each participant could share their experiences and challenges. In this regard, I felt I wasn't just creating a beautiful space, but also building a pillar of empowerment. And as I organized everything with the team, each detail became a reflection of the shared understanding I had built with so many women around me. Promotion of the event took over my social media and quickly spread. When invitations were sent to the women in the community, the response exceeded all expectations. The venue began to buzz with laughter and conversation, creating a resonant echo of mutual connection. Looking at the faces of each woman arriving was like seeing a reflection of every story that, at some point, had been mine as well. With the event about to begin, a mixture of nervousness and excitement took hold. I created an accessible mural where everyone could write their ideas, quickly transforming it into a visual space of support and empowerment. Each written testimony resonated in hearts, creating a tapestry of solidarity, leading to a genuinely welcoming space. As the event began, I raised my glass, inviting everyone to connect with what was most important to each of them. Today we are here not only to celebrate, but to listen and support each other. Each of us has a story that deserves to be told, a voice that needs to be heard. Let's create a space where love and understanding flourish. The women began to share their personal stories, and as the sun set, I saw the depth of true connection unfolding before me. A woman beside me shared the loss of a brother, recounting the pain and how she found strength through her family's stories. Each account echoed. Tears mingled with laughter, and the space became a sanctuary of hugs and empathy. Throughout the event, I realized this was a crucial moment, not only for the participants, but also for me. It was a confirmation that creating a space where experiences are valued, where vulnerability becomes strength, is not just a profession, but a mission I could embrace. What began as a desire for personal acceptance now expanded to a greater purpose, transforming into a reflection of what truly mattered: human connections. By the end of the night, the event was not just a success, but a significant celebration that touched the lives of so many women. Looking at the faces around me, I felt a deeper connection. We weren't just organizers and participants. We were a collective growing and learning together. This was reflected in every interaction, in every eye that shone with emotion, and especially in the warmth of love we felt in our hearts. As if culminating all the emotions, a young woman, who had been quietly in the corner of the space, stood up and said, "Thank you, Laura, for letting me be here. I never thought I could be so free to share my story. Today, I learned that we are stronger together." These words resonated within me, like a melody reaffirming everything I had worked for. The transformation was underway, both for me and for every woman present. The night ended in hugs and promises to support each other in future changes. Each farewell became a new connection, an implicit agreement that this union should continue to flourish, extending beyond that day. After turning off the lights and closing the space, I felt immense relief and satisfaction. The echoes of every laugh, every tear, and every story told filled my heart. As I reflected on all I had built, I realized that the path to accepting my own identity wasn't an isolated act, but part of a larger movement. The transformation wasn't just personal, but collective. And in doing so, I changed not only myself, but the dynamics of an entire community. The glamour I sought no longer amounted to just a brilliant event. It was the sincere connections and bonds we created, reflecting a new reality, a new vision. And so, I had found my place. My goal had been realized, and in doing so, I not only achieved acceptance, but also transformed my place in the world. It became clear that in the experiences and memories we built together lay the true beauty of life. Prepared for what the future held, I continued to look ahead, confident that true glamour was a reflection of what we cultivated together. And with each event I organized, I knew that I was not only celebrating, but also creating a new legacy, a new piece in the tapestry of our shared life, a story of love, acceptance, and genuine celebration. In the weeks following the Women's Voices event, life in my venue settled into a thrilling new normal. Looking at the space, once just an event location, and now a symbol of transformation, I knew much work remained, but the path I was on reflected the growth I'd experienced. Events became more frequent, and with each celebration, I felt the pulse of the community feeding off what I'd created. Every client brought expectations, a new story to tell. My portfolio diversified. It wasn't just weddings anymore, but baptisms, birthdays, even career celebrations. The space itself had become a blank canvas, ready to be filled with memories and experiences. I remember one weekend when a client's family approached me. They were planning a big celebration for their grandfather's 80th birthday. This party had to be special, not just to celebrate his life, but also to honor the strong traditions he'd brought to the family over the years. The challenge was significant, but I knew, as I had before, I could create an event that captured family love and the celebration of life. With that in mind, I planned a series of interactive activities. I set up a space where the grandchildren could share stories about their grandfather, each bringing photos and mementos that highlighted different chapters of his life. At the end of the party, these memories were compiled into an album for the family to cherish. This wasn't just a party. It was a way to celebrate history and strengthen family bonds. And so it was. The event was a resounding success. The grandfather, holding back tears, was deeply moved by the experience and the way his life was celebrated by his entire family. After the event, I received warm feedback that reignited my passion for event planning. "Laura, you work magic. Our bonds have never been stronger." My client's heartfelt words echoed in my mind as comforting reassurance. It was then I knew I was fulfilling not just a professional role, but a kind of mission to unite and transform. With every compliment, new ideas and approaches emerged. One project would echo the emotional experience of another, and the essence of what I believe in never faded. And so I understood that true glamour lies in the ability to create environments where people can flourish and connect. As time went on, the bonds I forged with this new network of clients and vendors grew stronger. I began receiving invitations to participate in workshops and lectures, where I could share my journey and the lessons I'd learned. This brought a new dimension to my professional life. What was once solitary work was transforming into a collaborative field where everyone was ready to learn from and support one another. However, all this wouldn't be complete without revisiting my own personal stories and experiences with my family. I decided it was time to embrace my personal experiences and use them to connect with others. I wrote down the words that inspired me during my transformation, and that now filled my mind. It's not always easy, but there are so many moments of beauty that deserve to be shared and celebrated. One such moment came when I started a blog, where I shared insights on event planning, life lessons learned, and my journey toward self-acceptance. When I launched the blog, the support and love were overwhelming. My venue had become a community, and I started receiving messages from women seeking encouragement and support. Stories of change, of courage in the face of social barriers, and the pursuit of personal acceptance touched my heart in ways I could barely explain. It was a network of love being built, a circle to which every woman could belong. And so, the saga of building my identity was no longer a solitary journey, but a platform where every experience connected. My venue, my blog, and the transformations I orchestrated in events became far more than I could have imagined. They were all parts of a legacy in the making, a testament to what it means to be truly accepted and valued. What was once a selfish pursuit of personal acceptance had blossomed into a mission of empowerment. The glamour I'd sought had transformed into a rich tapestry of colors and textures, where each thread represented a connection, a story, a memory. So, on a quiet afternoon, while preparing for the next event, I looked out the window and saw the sunset. The golden light reflected on the walls of my venue, and for a moment, I felt a surge of gratitude. The journey hadn't been easy, and I'd faced many doubts and fears. But now a bright future lay ahead, not just for me, but for everyone who had joined me on this magnificent journey. It was universally understood that true glamour is revealed in human interaction. As I continued to evolve, the experiences and bonds I created became the foundation for new stories, and whenever an event ended, I knew I was not only celebrating, but truly co-creating a new narrative. Among all the memories we created, I knew I had found what I had always sought. Not just acceptance, but a home. A space filled with love, shared experiences, and above all, the genuine beauty of being who I truly am, and always will be, in constant evolution.